Alright guys, got a 30-minute unrated game on the board. I'm not going to play my normal Vienna. My opponent's rated 864 and they're from Israel. Ron Lev 89, so youngster. Okay, so we've just got e4, e5. I'm going to play something very classic and we're going to try and apply the principles of the checklist. Trying not to blunder. This is unrated, so there's nothing on the line. So I've played the Italian game. Okay, so knight f3, knight c6, and then the bishop out to here. And if we can, we're going to be looking for opportunities to play the glorious bishop takes f7 check. If it should present itself. Now, that's kind of quiet. So now d4 is playable. I could play c3 and then d4. So this does unleash the light squared bishop, but I'm not too worried about that. It could come out here, pin my knight, that's okay. I'm going to play c3. I'm looking at this move a bit recently. c3 preparing d4 in a lot of different openings. So I've been playing it in the Alpine Sicilian. So if there's a pawn on here, you can play c3 to prepare d4 and contest this pawn on c5. But also in the Italian, if you've got hold of a copy of Logical Chess Move by Move, it's absolutely brilliant book. I think the first couple of games go this way, and this with this c3 move, preparing d4 in the Italian, in this kind of position. So we can't have a gioco piano now because, ooh, okay. All right. Why put your knight there? Okay, so checklist style. Why did my opponent play that move instead of knight to f6? Knight to f6 would have trapped in the queen, but his queen can't come there or there anyway because my knight's in the way. So part of me is inclined to play d4 now, and that comes with a discovered attack on this knight. I'm going to do that. I see. I only really considered one candidate move there, at least out loud. So very important to contest the center. Even not, you shouldn't just restrict your competition for the center to the first few moves of the game. This is move 5. But you know, if I'm allowed to grab the central control, I should get it. I get this a lot playing the French when I'm playing black. Real appreciation of the power of these central pawns if you can get them. So if e takes now, I've got c takes, you see, and then I've got 2 pawns in the center against black's solo pawn in the center. Plus I've got the option to eliminate this knight and bugger up his pawn structure on the king side there. Also got ideas of queen coming out to here with an attack on our favourite square, f7. It is a 30-minute game though, so he's got plenty of time to ponder. So if takes, that's very straightforward. Knight's not going to take, that's just silly. Queen can't come out here. I've got this in my pocket. This is one of the great things about bishops, you see, and this is one of the reasons, I've mentioned this a couple of times recently, but a bishop can sometimes take part in the game on its first move, right? So, well, I think this loses a piece. I mean, the first thing I spot is pieces 2 apart, getting ready for a pawn fork. Can't see any problem. I think he's going to move his bishop to here, he's going to lose his knight. Okay. So what he should have done is go, okay, before I put my bishop here, is there anything nasty my opponent can do to me? Right? Does this create any new threats against me? So he thought he was just contesting this bishop here, right? But he missed this threat. And he's okay, that's a nice move. Well done, okay. So what he's done here, he's got 2 pieces under attack, And he's spotted that this bishop is still undefended, right? So he can move one of his pieces, counterattack the bishop. So now I'm pointing my gun at you, you're pointing your gun at me, right? So I'm kind of inclined to take the bishop, let him capture, and then I can capture on f7, which will expose the king. So I'm quite happy with that. This is not a bad trade. Taken off his light squared bishop. See, the strongest pawn chain right now is this dark squared chain. So that made life better for his light squared bishop, whereas this guy is not in a happy place, right? He's restricted to 2 squares on the board. Okay, so I'm going to grab that pawn, seeing as my other pawn was not long for this world. I imagine knight's going to capture. Then that's one idea. If king captures, I'm very happy. Right, okay, so let's just recap. Material is equal. Okay, I now don't have the central pawns, but my opponent has lost his f-pawn. That could be telling. So I do have this move at some point. Now, if I were to move my queen there now, the knight can go there quite happily and attack the queen straight back. So what's the point in that? b3 is an idea candidate move. Knight can't go there, or there. He's going to have to come back to one of these 2 squares, which I like. So that's definitely a candidate move, right? Castles, obviously, another very respectable kind of move. I've got bishop and knight looking at that square. Okay. But I'm thinking, these are both perfectly good moves, but I'm thinking that this one is the more forcing, because I'm attacking a piece and I'm making my opponent make his position on the board slightly worse. Okay, so when his knight comes back to here or here, it's moving away from the action, because this is the action, right? Your opponent's king, generally. Okay, and now I'm going to castle. So now I've got my king to safety. Black hasn't yet, but should be able to fairly easily. Just moves the bishop there. Now let's have a look at this knight. It does have options now. Now it's on a dark square. It's got quite a few options of light squares it can go to. But actually not forwards. It can't go there or there. So he's only really got this and this right now. So a4, a5 would force the knight back again. Maybe. But I need to think now about how to win. So I've now castled. Yes, I haven't completed development. But, you know, like I say, this bishop could shoot out at any point. Okay. c5. I need to think what to do with my dark squared bishop in the future of this game. See, right now he can't go there or there because of the knight. The knight's in a funny position. Can't go here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. This knight will also want to make its way over towards the kingside at some point. But I think more structurally, I need to decide what the idea is with this bishop. And I'm thinking maybe bishop b2 and c4, targeting this diagonal. At some point there may be ideas of, I can get like a rook on d1, grab this pawn, something like that. So I'm going to move the bishop there for now. Then I might centralize this rook to create a square for my knight to reroute itself around to g3. That's one idea. A knight here, here. Okay, let's just play that. There's no new threats. You know, I knew this bishop only had a couple of squares. He wants to castle. That's why he did it. He can now put his bishop on there or there. If I capture, the queen can recapture, or the knight. Yeah, this knight is not good knight. This bishop is okay. So should I play c4 now? This pawn is defended twice. C4 would mean it's attacked twice, which means this guy can't really push. Or do I bring my knight round? 1, 2, 3. I think I'd like to play C4. I just want to prevent this idea. He's now got his backwards pawn, right? So it's a vulnerable pawn. It's at the back of the pawn chain, and it's undefended itself. Well, I mean, it's defended by 3 pieces, but it's not defended by another pawn. So this could be a target, this pawn. Oh, he likes pushing his pawns up. Okay. Now, A4 is the first thing that springs to mind, and one thing we learn is don't just automatically play the first move that you think of. Okay, so if he wants to advance there, I'm just going to move my knight out of the way. So if he wants to do this, he takes there, I can retake, and if he wants to swap rooks, so be it, that's fine. Okay, so I'm now thinking about bringing my knight round here, just extra defense, but it's also got attacking ideas, so the knight could come into there, you see. Attacking this pawn, attacking this bishop. Bishop's defended only by the queen. So you want to be constantly just scanning what's defended and undefended, right? Queen there. Okay, it is defended on that square. Because one idea would be something like try and get a discovery, or take out one of this pawn. But that's not really playable right now. What's he want to do with his queen? Why did he make that move? Can't go there, but he can go here. I'm just going to carry move my knight round. Not too worried. My rating is creeping back up. It's now 1475. I'm starting to carry this idea in my head now that I am a 1550 player, 1550, 1600 player, right? And that the reason that I'm 1475 is because I've been underperforming. It's that simple. Okay, that's not a great looking move to me. I think my bishop might now come around to here because this has now made itself a target. I might even think about lifting a rook, try and get a rook to g3. So knight here is defended. Attacks the bishop and the pawn. This knight is still very bad. This bishop doesn't have massive scope. Okay, well he's pushed now 2 pawns in front of his king. So I'm thinking just like queen d2. It's a quick sanity check. Looks okay. I'm not really attacking this pawn because it's defended by this knight, but there may be possibilities. It's good to get the old queen off the back rank. I'd like to get my rook from the a1 to d1 lined up with this, just in case. I'm just setting the possibility of a future tactic. Because this pawn is the defender of these two. Yes, this knight is also defending that one. But if I took out that pawn, the only way he can recapture is this. But he's not going to do that if there's the possibility of losing his queen. Oh, he's got 22 minutes left. Have I got any coffee left in my cup? No. No coffee. Now that is the knight that was defending that pawn. If I take, probably bishop takes, and that bishop has just become quite a bit stronger, controlling kind of this key diagonal, and I don't want him to control that diagonal. So how about rook e3? No, because then knight takes, rook takes, g takes. So that leaves the only other real option of maybe move the knight, but moving the knight attacking this could be an idea. So let's say I move my knight, so I'm not going to drop it. I mean, it is undefended on that square, and then let's say, you know, I play knight and king just moves up and defends the pawn. My knight could then be vulnerable there. I'm going to do it anyway. We'll see what happens. So I'm attacking this pawn. That comes with a fork on bishop and rook. Now my knight, I think, is probably a stronger piece than that bishop, but I don't know. Oh, hang on. Now he's got 2 checks, hasn't he? So if he comes here with check, I have to capture, and then bishop takes knight. That wasn't the cleverest idea. No, I failed to ask myself, what is my opponent going to do? Now will he spot that? So if knight here, it's a fork on king and queen and rook. So but then I capture with my knight, so that one's not on, okay? But this one could be on. Check there, with a discovered attack on my knight, which is undefended, as we have said, okay? So I have to get out of check. So I have to capture the knight. So if knight here, g takes, bishop takes, boo. And then we're looking a little exposed. However, this knight does move as well. I've got queen takes h6. That's quite a good move. I don't know why he pushed these pawns. So this, I think, is the best move. In fact, after pawn takes as well, he's got queen takes pawn. So I'd love to move my king out of the way if I get the opportunity. Probably h1. Don't want to put it in line with a rook. Okay, great. So he's decided that he is focused on his defense of his pawn. Great. That suits me absolutely fine. So now if I move my king, let's say king h1, and he plays this, I can ignore it. I just move my knight back. So I'm going to play that. This pawn's now pinned as well. So let's say I play f4, attacking the knight. This pawn cannot capture because it's pinned, so that's not an option. And if rook takes, I've got queen takes, and pawn can't capture my queen because it's pinned. So f4 is quite a cool move now. Can't go there, there, there. Knight will have to retreat somewhere it doesn't want to go. Like this guy, who's just been frozen since early on in the game. So f4 is looking very nice now. Get my rooks across. Okay, he's run away. I have run away. Right, I'm just looking at this idea. Check there. Doesn't really work, just pawn takes and there's no great compensation. This pawn is still pinned. So I still have f4 if I want to play f4. That's an idea. I'm going to play my rook over here first. The idea is about, should this pawn take this pawn, I can get the queen. Knight takes, I win a knight, okay? So now if f4, so follow my reasoning, f4 he can't take, okay? And he can't take with a rook because queen takes rook. And the pawn can't recapture. So f4, he does something, right? I capture this pawn, and I'm threatening to capture this pawn with a discovered check by the bishop, right? So I play this, then I capture this pawn. If he recaptures, I get queen, knight takes queen, rook takes queen finally, and I've won myself a knight. Admittedly, it's not a very valuable knight, it's not in the best state of repair. It's a knight with very few possibilities in life right now. You can go there, and that's it. Right, really has no options at all. He can go to there, but from there he can't go anywhere else other than back to where he came from. So this knight, I would say, is worth about 1.5 pawns, not 3 pawns at this point in time. So you really need to think about, you know, getting a far more flexible approach to the value of pieces. So in the game yesterday, for example, I exchanged a rook for a minor piece because the minor piece that I took was my opponent's only good active piece. So he's moved his knight now to here. So why did my opponent make that move? I think my hypothesis is that my opponent couldn't think of anything else to do. Now, what has changed? Well, the knight is no longer defending the queen, so I'm going to play this f4 move now and really make him think. So now, if I capture here and he recaptures, he loses the queen outright. Okay, so that's not a possibility. So if I can now take this pawn for free. This pawn cannot legally take my pawn. And if the rook takes, queen takes rook. Okay? Oh, I've got a hanging knight. How long's that been there? There. See, I didn't ask what had changed. Now he's done this absolutely nothing move when he's got a hanging piece there. And I've just played this f4. Wow. Wow. Okay, so let's say he takes the knight. I take here. And then I'm threatening this, attacking the queen, and with discovered check. But that'd be really cool. So I really want to play this move. And then there, win the queen. How cool would that be? Go on, take the knight. I'm begging you. Hey, my opponent's played pretty darn well for somebody rated under 900. It just goes to show, you know, because I play against opponents of really wide ratings from like 500 to 2000, right? And sometimes an 800 can play better than a 1500, right? Some people have terrible games from time to time. Yes, it's obviously more common for a high-rated player to play well because they've got the attributes and the experience. He's having a jolly good think, though. But, you know, any one of us can have a perfect game. You know, we've all had, I'm sure, like 90%, 99% games from time to time. And we've all had howlers from time to time. So you really do need to respect every opponent exactly the same. Okay. Are you going to take the knight? How did I not see that? When this knight moved, what's changed? Well, the knight was on that square, it's no longer on that square. What do we know about that square? Ooh. And I said this knight was undefended on that square. We've been talking about this for ages. So, has he even seen it? So takes. How does he avoid disaster? He has to move his king. Has to move his king back. Then I get another pawn. No, I get 2 pawns for losing my knight. Come on, Runlev. He's having a really good think. If he doesn't capture the knight, I think I should just move it, quite honestly. He's also got 2 attackers on here. No, he hasn't, because that pawn is pinned. We had this conversation. Haha. Good. Right. So he finally noticed that there was a hanging piece. And now this is the major threat. Discovered check. But it's not that, it's actually this, isn't it? With a discovery. That would be deadly. If he gets greedy and does that, his queen falls. Foolishness on my part to blunder a piece. So, I mean, I'm really hanging up for this right now. So let's see, what can he do to avoid that? Well, he can move his queen out of line of this pawn here. He can move his king backwards, but not to there because it's still on. So king can't go there or there because the discovery is still on. So he'd have to go here or here, and moving in front of the rook doesn't make any sense at all. So I think king g8 is definitely a possibility. But if the king does move there, I've got queen takes h6. Attacking this bishop. Okay, so that's a decent move. I think pawn takes e6 is also a decent move, because it opens up the bishop onto this diagonal, yeah? Or like queen to there, and with a threat of this. Yeah, that might be even worse. Okay, queen c3 with a threat of e6, attacking the queen and threatening the queen to come right into the corner with a checkmate. So let's do that. Also defends the knight from the bishop, but I'm not too worried about that. If he wants to take the knight, knock yourself out, mate. It's because I've got e6 with a variation on my previous tactical idea. Bishop can't come back and block, it just gets taken. Bishop captures knight, it's going to be curtains, I think. So if I attack the queen there, right, let's say the queen, well, the queen can't move. The only place a queen can go would be here. And then it's simply queen takes queen and it's checkmate. So let's say he grabs knight, for example, right? I've got this, I'm attacking the queen. He has to give up the queen. He has to, I think, play his king to there or something. Something insane. Or if I do that, does he just come back with his bishop? Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so he's spotted it and he's played that move first. Interesting. Very interesting and well spotted, has to be said. Now, so if I take or push the pawn now, then the queens are facing off. We'll probably just get queen takes queen, bishop takes. Then he'll take my knight, double up my pawns, and I'm not in a great situation. Has to be said. Although I do have a nice pawn here. It'd be nice to be able to defend that bishop and then somehow move this pawn and attack the queen, putting my bishop on that diagonal. But again, I'm not totally sure. So I'm thinking I might just lift my rook to defend the bishop. Yeah. I'm going to play that. Then get this rook to here, get it out of line, break this pin with the bishop. It's annoying me. So this is my general idea. There maybe attack. We might trade queens. This isn't too bad. So I'm currently down a piece for a pawn. But my opponent is running out of time somewhat. So I've got two attackers on this pawn. But I didn't want to capture yet and trade queens, really. I think exchanges of pieces will generally favour the weaker player. But sometimes you get a game with somebody quite a bit lower rated, and what they'll do is they'll just simplify and get it down to the most equal ending they can as quickly as possible. And that's a pain. But it is a useful tactic when you're playing somebody who's stronger. You know, the more pieces remain on the board, the more complexity there is, and the more tactical opportunities there are going to be, and that should favour the stronger player. So he's coming up to 10 minutes now. Does he want to capture that pawn with his pawn? Okay, interesting. This pawn's defended twice right now. If I move my rook as I was planning, he could take out my bishop and then take that with a fork. I think that's what he's thinking about. So if I take that, we trade queens. I mean, he's got to trade queens because, you know, otherwise, I suppose he could move his queen here. That's the only other option. I'm going to take the pawn. Trade queens, but at least I've got this aggressive pawn now. Then I might be able to push this one up behind it, get these two central pawns working together. That could be a winning opportunity. Knight can't take, because queen takes queen is checkmate. Also, it's defended by the rook. Just looking at the bishop, the fact it's undefended, but it's very hard to kind of attack that and something else at once. I'll pre-move the recapture. So I definitely have better king safety right now. Oh, okay, so we've done the trade, that's good. Because my opponent's moved the G and H pawns. So there are lines towards this king in the way that there are not towards me. Alright, so he's gone for this trade, that's okay. Now I've got two rooks behind two nice passed pawns. So this is my plan, right? Quite simply, throw these guys up the board and get a queen. Force a rook to trade itself off for a pawn, and the job's done. This rook is stuck guarding this pawn, so maybe b6 would be an idea at some point. I could even put two rooks behind one pawn, and okay, so what's he doing there? I can now push. He can't take. Yeah, I've got to watch out for this. I think pushing this pawn makes sense. That's the situation we want to get to. Interesting to track the journey of these two pawns throughout this game, really. Okay, so now this knight is no longer... See, the knight was looking at this pawn, and now the pawn's moved, and the knight's moved. So he's blocking the progress of this guy, however, and my bishop can't disturb the knight from that square, it's on an outpost. Now, so I think plan A really needs to be double up now behind the D pawn, push, push. Now he might have ideas about doing that. Cheeky monkey. But let's go for it. Let's start doubling up and see what he thinks. He could put a rook on d8, or he could put his knight on d7. But if he does that, he's really tied up his minor pieces. Okay. So now, yes, I can push. If knight takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, and I win the knight. Also might have ideas about going after this pawn. Now, while this knight's still here, so a3, b4, yeah. That's what I want to do. Get rid of this guy. Really use my pawns now. It's got to be done. Also, that pawn's undefended. Why didn't I see that? Ah, right. Should have taken this pawn, pinning the knight to the rook. Then how does he save the knight? What a jellyhead. And he's got no way to defend that knight. The other knight can't defend it. It's on a light square, which means that wherever it moves, it's going to be on a dark square, so it can't defend another dark square from a dark square. As knights always look at the opposite colour that they're on. Ah! Okay, now. So back to this plan. Gosh. Not playing at my best today for sure. So there, pawn takes, or bishop takes. I think that's okay. Now it's definitely black that's on the back foot because of these advanced pawns. You've got to be so careful. You can see how pawns change in value as well. Right, so yeah, these are central pawns, so they're pretty valuable. You know, they're 1.1, 1.2 pawns, as opposed to these guys that might be like 0.6 or 0.7, right? Okay, now, take with the pawn or the bishop. Well, pawn, because I don't want to lose my bishop to a pawn. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, but see, every step that these pawns take towards promotion, they suddenly become super valuable, which is why people will quite often sacrifice a minor piece or a major piece to take out a pawn that's promoting or about to promote. So I've actually got two more pawns than my opponent as well. So look at his pawns now. These two have moved forwards, which they shouldn't have done, and these two, right? I've got a horrible double pair there, but then I've actually got an island 4, which is pretty darn cool. It's down to 6.5 minutes now. Okay, now I think I should, if I take back with the bishop, he has got this, but then I've got that. So this attacks a rook, yeah. Just move. Oh no, then he's got this with the fork on both, so you've got to be careful about that. So if this, so let's say for example, let's say he does take that pawn, right? I move forward, he takes my rook, I take his rook, maybe king recaptures, I get that. Who won that one? Hard to say, right? He gets a pawn, I push. He gets a rook, so he's up 6. He's up 5. He's up. Hang on. He's up 1. I push. He's up 6. He's up 1. And then if takes and takes. But then I am almost ready to promote. Although this square is still going to be covered by a couple of pieces. 5 minutes 20 and there's no increment on this. So if, let's say he does take this, what am I going to do? Can't go there. I can't go there because of the fork. So can I go here? I think I probably can. Can't go there either, got to be careful of that. So let's just figure this out now. Pushes, he's a piece up, so he's got this, you know, 2 knights for bishop, but I've got 1 extra pawn. Push, take rook. Take rook. King recaptures. Rook recaptures. And he's still got 2 pieces guarding that square. That doesn't work out. So I'm going to play... No, I'm not going to play that either because the same problem. Fork. Forking time. Okay, I can't go there. I should go onto a dark square, really. But there aren't any. So I'm going to have to go like here. No, can't go there either. Wow, where can I go? Can't go there, get taken. If I go there, it's a fork, no good. If I go there, it's a fork, no good. If I go there, it's a fork. Can't go there because of that knight. Can't go there, so it leaves only one square, doesn't it? Yes. Okay, that's fine. Whew, that took some brain power. Maybe even come up to here. Have to be really careful around knights. I mean, I love my knight forks. Huge fan of knight forks, especially when the board's nice and open and you're in an ending. I have time on my side though. I've got 10 minutes more than my opponent here. But if I win this game, he's blooming well made me work for it, I tell you. I tell thee, lad. Right then. D7 is an idea. Okay, what did my opponent just do? I don't know, just pushed a pawn. D7 comes with the discovery on that rook. He'd love to put his knight onto here, but he can't. So I haven't got to worry about those things right now. So this, he's got to move the rook. If I take out the rook, let's just do it. Let's just play it. He can't now move his knight back to here because of having pushed that pawn on the previous go. So he's got to move this rook, and it can't go there or there. It can't stay where it is. So he's got two options. Right, that's a pretty obvious one. Okay, let's attack the rook again. He still wants to put his knight on here, but he can't. It'd be 3 moves to get a knight fork on these two rooks. I'm quite happy about that. He's on 4 minutes 10. Now what are you going to do with your rook? Go there, 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 there. It gets taken. Let's say rook here, queens. Knight takes queen. Bishop takes knight. Rook takes. Rook takes, rook takes. Doesn't really work. This knight's a pain. Okay, he's gone there. Alright, so what I need to do is shift this knight, because if I go there, he's got 1, 2, 3 pieces attacking my queen on d8. So I have to get rid of this guy. How do I do that? I attack this knight first. Then the idea of coming up there. He should go there. Ooh! Is that an idea? There with check. Rook takes, pawn takes, queens, rook takes. If I can double up my rooks on the C file, and this knight moves, that might be an idea. I've also got bishop here. Time is going to be a factor. Wow. Okay, bishop there attacks the rook. Rook comes here. No. Play bishop here. I want to make sure I don't blunder at this point. Also, notice this knight's under attack. Okay, now. Again, he's got 3 pieces covering that square. And I have no rooks behind it, so I want to get my rooks onto this again. So I'm going to put my rook back to d1. I might have to try and flag him. If I can get this knight to move, so let's say this, right? And that's no good, I just lose a piece that way. Like this. There's no fork. But I'm also not really attacking the knight either. It's attacked and defended. It's attacked once and defended. How do I improve my bishop? Let's try this. So I'm just attacking this pawn here. And if he takes, I'll take back. He's got Time is a big factor. Okay. His knights are doing a good job. He's keeping them on these light squares, which means he's controlling a whole bunch of dark squares around the board. And that makes life harder for my bishop. Okay. Should we throw in a check? Just out of spite. Goes, okay, so he's not gone there. Let's throw in another check. Threatening now to win this knight. And that is pretty good, actually. That's quite a score. Okay, I'm not concerned. Okay, now. If I get the king onto a dark square, it's like, look at this, like takes, right? King takes rook. Bishop takes pawn. No, then I lose my bishop. So that doesn't work. Okay, he's got two pieces now attacking this, so I need to do something. Yeah, that's not clear. I mean, I can block, but then knight takes, pawn takes, rook takes pawn. Then throw in a check. Can't go there. He either moves here or he captures the pawn. Okay, now what he's done is he's actually pinned his own knight though. So he's still up a minor piece. Okay, push. And the rook has to stay on this file or else the knight falls, yeah? So push, is he going to go here? Then I can dodge out there and defend. Okay, let's push. Okay, I'm expecting rook here, then rook e1. Two minutes 3. So that's now defended twice. It's over defended. And I'm threatening this. Even if he takes my rook, I get there, get a queen, rook has to take. Okay. This knight is defending this promotion square. I've got much more time than my opponent does. So there takes rook, there queens, rook takes, there. Takes rook with check. Ugh, no. Don't like that. Right, I have to use this rook somehow. So I've got ideas of bringing my rook over to there, but also now push the pawn without the discovered attack on my own piece. So again, I'm threatening this. 1 minute 30. Yeah, let's do that. I've still got this as an idea. If he pushes, I take. Very, very involved, interesting, complex ending. All right. Okay, I think that's desperation. I just need to check. Yeah, I'm not too worried about back rank attacks, but he could have this, for example. Okay, well, now I've got there. That I can move. Okay, that comes with check, but that's not a problem. Now I'm ahead of material because he's just given up his rook with a desperate final fling. Final throw of the dice. Okay. Now the knight's protected and is covering these squares, but I still have these. Got these two squares. I can just keep going backwards and forwards, or I come out into the board. I think I'm safe here because his king can't get to there. His pawn's not going anywhere, so I'm going to do this. Now there, and he thinks he's out of checks. King can't come close to my king. Right, now he's got a threat of that, but I can capture his pawn. Rook takes here, king retreats. Yeah, it's okay. Also got this as well, pin the knight. That's fine, king there. $30 now. Even if I pin the knight, I can't capture the rook. Okay. I'm going to trade without thinking here. Okay, and let's throw in a check. 23, 22, 21, 20. 19, 18. Okay, let's get the rook all the way out of the way. Okay, he's going to try and push his pawn, but I've got many checks now. And each one is going to take a couple of seconds of his clock. Okay, because my rook's at good distance, there's fresh air. Alright, now we need to avoid the repetition. Okay, so I'm going to come here now, just to make sure we don't have that situation. Okay, you're checking me, that's fine. You come back up here, I'll go there, block the pawn. 2, 1, check. Wow. Very, very good game, very close. Just goes to show, I mean, look at this. We've got a difference of 600 points between us, and we've had a really good game of chess. And that's what's so great about it. You know, you can take on people who are a lot more experienced and with more skill, and have a good game. That just goes to show. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one. Quite a long one there, but definitely interesting. Definitely some fun little tactics in there. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.